Check 1, 2.
Well, hello there, boyfriend. How are you this fine day?
I'm really good.
Is it working?
Yes.
Excellent. Let's not touch shit.
I'm afraid to ask, but I have a great question.
I don't even know what I was going to say. I'm so disturbed right now.
We just got back from Denver.
We did.
Can I say something?
Oh, boy.
First of all, you're just giving me a lot of shit in the kitchen about my caffeine intake. What could happen?
You could die.
No.
Yes.
Okay, guess that settles that. How much caffeine till you die? Does it matter if I drink caffeine if I'm caffeine adapted, as they say? Is that
Well,
a good
you
thing?
have a tolerance, so you can handle more than someone who's caffeine naive. Certainly.
Fucking loser, some people call them. So,
No.
are you being... People have died of caffeine.
Absolutely.
Didn't some guy drink a bunch of...
There's a recent report about teenagers that have been dying, very healthy, no comorbidities, dying from excessive caffeine ingestion, usually from energy drinks. And the taurine usually balances out the tremors and some of the palpitations or tachycardia, the racing heartbeat, and the jitteriness that you feel. So you drink more caffeine.
The taurine is evil. If you see taurine in your Monster drink, it's trying to trick your body into allowing you to drink more caffeine and mitigate your body trying to warn you.
You know, one of my favorite movies ever. What's my favorite movie of all time? My favorite movie. You've watched it with me. That's a hint because we barely watch movies together.
I know what it is. I can't think of the name of it. Role Models?
Role Models. So Paul Rudd and the other guy, Stifler. I don't know his real name.
Yeah, that's fine. He's so famous. You know, I never understood when someone's like, oh, I hate getting typecast. I'd like to be a movie star. Typecast me.
Yeah.
I'll be Stifler the rest of my life.
I feel bad though because
So
he's
what
a good
happened?
actor. Well, I just love Paul Rudd, so I know his name. But anyway, so they sell like an energy drink, and in part of it,
In the
they
show.
drink so much of this energy drink that they're promoting. They're shaking and they're jittery like crazy, and it shows them peeing, and it like comes out neon green.
Yeah, I remember.
That doesn't actually happen.
It's close, though.
It does. It does change the color of your urine, not to that color. But they're joking about how terrible this poison is, but they sell it anyway. The problem is with energy drinks, that is problematic. They pack way more caffeine than an average cup of coffee, or a soda, or a cup of tea. So you have to be careful,
I don't
especially
know
when
if
they're
this-
marketed.
Yeah.
Well, at coffee
Towards
shops,
teenagers.
to younger kids who feel like they can handle the energy, or they do a challenge and then they drink too much. So yes, caffeine overdose or caffeine abuse are two true diagnoses in the medical community.
Is there...
And caffeine addiction and caffeine withdrawal also exist. You can get horrible rebound headaches. Caffeine helps treat headaches. You know, a headache is actually a blood vessel in your brain that's spasming.
Is it?
It's like expanding and scrunching down.
Is that... Wait a second.
So
Is that why last
caffeine-
night I said, can we have sex? And you said, I'm sorry, I have a blood vessel in my brain expanding. I was like, what's that? It was like your headache excuse, but with just more
I've never
flowering
given you
language.
that excuse. That's
You've not.
nice.
I was just trying to be funny. Please continue.
Caffeine is a vasoconstrictor. It squeezes down, preventing that spasm as much.
Yeah.
So it can be helpful in mitigating headaches from being severe. Not always.
Do you
but
think
it's
that's the
helpful.
most
That's why
common...
like Excedrin has caffeine oftentimes combined with it.
Is that the most common excuse for not having sex? The headache thing is... I feel like it's not a real excuse. I feel like it's more of a television and movie excuse.
Well, if I didn't want to have sex with you and you wanted to have sex with me, I would just say I had raging diarrhea.
You would?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you just say...
No?
I am actually going to disagree with you. I don't think you would say that.
No, if I was going to lie. If I was going to
You know
lie.
what I'd say in response?
I wouldn't lie, but if I was going to lie, I would do something so
If you were
gross
lying.
that you'd be like, oh, never mind.
In response, I would say still interested.
That's disgusting.
That's the facts. If you weren't going to lie...
There's another Paul Rudd movie called This Is 40, and it's with Leslie Mann, and they're a married couple, and she's on the toilet just like defecating herself wildly after a dinner gone wrong or something. I don't remember. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. We can still have sex if you want to. And he goes, well, now. As she was like actively having diarrhea.
So he's saying no to that.
Yeah.
It's funny, like we won't get into it, but I feel like there's not
What?
much that would dissuade me from wanting to have sex. Like that stuff is...
Raging diarrhea.
If it was active,
Gross.
I don't want to get into it in a gross way, but if that was like, oh, that just happened in there, I'd be like, hey, quick shower. We'll be fine.
Wouldn't you be worried that
We'll leave that hole closed.
it wasn't a single isolated incident? And with all the pressure pushing down
Can I tell you something,
onto
Erika?
a body, more stuff is bound to come out,
Can I
not
tell you
stay
something honestly?
in.
Every time I get behind the wheel, I take a risk.
Oh my gosh.
Every
Not
time
with
I
explosive
fly in an airplane,
diarrhea.
I take a risk. I've never had explosive diarrhea. I don't like poop talk
Yes, you have.
at all.
For your
What?
colonoscopy.
That was not explosive ever.
I cleaned the toilet the next day.
All right, let's start over. This is afraid to
exploded.
ask. Let's start again.
It did.
I don't want
You
to.
were shitting water. That's just what happens.
Can I tell you something about caffeine?
Sure.
I was writing on a TV show. I've never said this publicly because the show is still on the air, but now it's not. And I loved everyone that works there. It was that show with Kevin Nealon and Matt LeBlanc, and we'd be in a writer's room. It was one of the best jobs I ever had.
Yeah.
I had friends in the writer's room. Two of the people in the writer's room were in my wedding. Like, that's how close these friends were. You'd think one of them
That's cool.
would have taken a look at her and warned me.
Well,
Anyway,
maybe
not
they
very
weren't
good
that friends.
But I was in there with all these friends, and it was a pretty funny show.
Okay.
I love the showrunners. They're the Phil Goes. They did that 70s show.
Oh, I liked
Remember
that show. I liked
They
that
created
one.
that show. They were great. And so I loved my job, just to be clear.
Yeah.
And I would drink a coffee in the morning at Bluebell or whatever it's called. I lived across the street from the studio. I chose an apartment where I could walk to work every day because I didn't want to deal with LA traffic. Didn't have a car.
That's smart.
It was fun. And so I'd walk to this coffee place. I'd drink this big coffee. I'd go to work. Then they would order coffee for us. I love getting free stuff. Like, I didn't even want a coffee, but because it was a free Starbucks order, I found myself going, I would like one because of the freeness. And I think I got adrenal fatigue is my guess.
Yeah.
They would be talking. I'd be in the room and sometimes fall asleep. At a job I loved, we're pitching jokes. I would be so afraid. There were times when I was pinching my hand to stay awake. And is that something that happens, you think? Like, when you get to a certain level of caffeine, you start to, it has not just diminishing returns. I mean, nothing is happening. This is my 5th or 6th cup of coffee today. I told you, I think I would like to wean off of the caffeine because I'm a little worried.
Well, yeah. I mean, you build a tolerance to pretty much anything that you ingest on a regular basis, right? So you have to be cautious with caffeine. So there's good and bad. One, okay, so you do have a habit. Sometimes it's psychogenic. People just having the smell of coffee will alert them and wake them up. When they're drinking it, they taste it, and it's that ethereal response of like, okay, I have more energy. So you can fake yourself with half caffeinated coffee, right? So half decaf, half regular. A lot of people successfully can wean down on their ingestion of total caffeine.
Half caffeine?
Based on doing that. But isn't that interesting how like the smell of coffee wakes people up because they're anticipating?
Sure. Almost like a ringing a bell for a Pavlov dog.
Exactly.
Right? I think that
I'd salivate for a good cup of coffee.
You would? You want to hear when I used to drink quite a bit, I remember there were some days when I couldn't wait to have a drink. And I remember, I'm going to say some false information that we could Google to verify.
Oh boy.
But I remember I would go to sushi and I would order sake. Did you ever sake it up at sushi? You ever sake, hot sake?
Oh.
Was that a no? I feel like that noise was a no.
Well, I mean, clearly that's a yes, I've done it,
Yeah.
but nasty.
Wow, I used to love hot sake. I had a great hot sake story. Anyway, I'll tell you that in a second. I drink this cup of hot sake, immediately feel like like after a hard day's work, you want to drink. I drink this cup of hot sake, go, man, I feel better. Wow, do I feel good. It was like that drink, right? When it hits you, first drink and you feel great.
Yeah.
Then I read online that alcohol does not affect you right away. Completely in my head. I think it's 7 minutes. And I remember drinking it and going
yeah.
But I remember reading, this is the part that might be incorrect. It was 7 minutes. So all of that was psychosomatic. Do you want to hear my sake story? This is a pretty good one. I quit drinking because my life is better without drinking. I don't go to meetings or anything. I just feel like my life is better, save more money, get more things done. My kids never seen me drink. I mean, or maybe Charlie, who's older back in the day, but it's been years since I had a drink, and so they just know me as a non-drinker. And one day we went to a place called, it was like Benihana or Shogun, you know, those places where they throw shrimp up in the air. And by the way, want to hear something crazy? There was this annoying guy at Benihana. And it was me. It was not me. Well, the story is I am about to be at the forefront of the whole restaurant.
Oh.
So it's me, my son, and my daughter, and then the guy. Right. I don't think we had
chef?
my little guy yet. It was the chef guy. So I think I just had 2 kids. And I think I was married. Maybe an ex-wife in there. Whatever. This guy, he's doing the stuff. He's got a shrimp. He's got like an egg. Ooh, he cracks it in the air. Right. There's an annoying guy at the end that won't shut up. Right. The guy's like, you know, they order beers and stuff. He goes to serve the guy a beer. He spills it all over the guy's lap.
On purpose?
Well, that's what I'm saying. This guy just cracked an egg in the air with a tiny fork. You think he doesn't know how to set down he for sure spilled it on the guy on purpose. This guy's skillful with his hands and he spilled it on him. I thought it was on purpose. Anyway.
I would say that too.
It's my first time at such a place.
A sneaky jerk.
Yeah,
or maybe he wasn't a jerk. Maybe the guy deserved it.
I think he deserved it. So here's what happens. You ready? I haven't drank in 8 years. Not one drink. Not even a sip. We're at Benihana. I've never been there before. All of a sudden they start going like, hey, lads, they're making noises. There's like music playing, and the guy's holding he's got like a bottle, and people open their mouth and he squeezes into their mouth, and he does it to the person next to me, and he goes to me. And you know what it's like when someone's about to squirt something in your mouth, like when you're in college, whatever. Yeah. You slap it away. No. So he holds up this thing, and I don't know what got into me.
You suck it down harder.
But I thought it was water or something. I don't know what I thought it was. And in front of my children. And by the way, these are like these oval seats where everyone can see you in the whole restaurant. And the guy starts squeezing this into my mouth. And I know I'm an idiot here. How would I not know that it's sake? Like, of course I should know that. Mm-hmm. He's squeezing sake in my mouth. I don't drink. And I haven't had a drink in 9 years.
Did you swallow it?
No.
What'd you do?
I freaked.
Spit it on that guy's pants that already had beer on him?
I spit it into my bowl, and everyone was like, how's that guy doing? Oh. And it was awful, and my kids were freaked out. And then some guy from everyone was watching me. Yeah. You know how the record screeches? It was like that, like it screeched to a halt. Everyone was looking at me. And then some guy it was like everything stopped, and this guy from really far away goes, oh, maybe he's driving. And then everyone started eating again. And I ran to the bathroom, and I felt like the alcohol had gotten into the pores of my mouth, and I felt crazy for a day. And I always wondered, I don't know how long since I drank, but I was always like, do you have to start over if a man squirt sake in your mouth? Wouldn't that be bullshit?
Of course not.
That's why I don't think keeping track is that good of an idea. But anyway.
I think it's a wonderful achievement. It's very difficult for most people to do because of how society paints alcohol as like a positive, and you're almost abnormal. Like I feel like the waiter even yesterday at dinner looked at us like we were cheap because we only got sparkling water. Like,
he did.
Really? Why didn't you?
He did look less like we were cheap. He also thought it was weird that I brought my own steak.
No, they look at you like, what do you mean? Have you looked at the drink menu? You're like, yeah, we're not going to drink anything. What? Well, give me a $50 expensive fancy bottle of like sugar-free soda water flavoring something, but you don't offer it.
Let me tell you something, Erika. I couldn't agree with you more. When I am looked at non-judgmentally, sparkling water, of course. Do you want a lime or a lemon? That person's getting a huge tip. When I feel no judgment and they go, yeah, I love it.
Isn't it never is commonplace though. It's so common for them to look at you like you're trying to save money on the bill. And then you order like a $5 million steak and they're like, oh, okay. But like, why is like the gauge alcohol? Oh, it bugs me.
I think there's a comedian, I don't want to steal the joke, but it's such a great point. I think there's a comedian, it might be like Jim Gaffigan, where he goes, isn't it weird with alcohol you quit and people don't take, like that's not enough for them? Like if somebody goes, you want some cheese? And you go like, oh, no thanks. And they go, why? Why'd you quit cheese? Did you have a problem with cheese? Do you have a problem? Like it's funny how with alcohol, you have a problem with lasagna? What's the matter? Did you have to go get help? Did you?
Well, and also if you quit alcohol, people automatically assume it's because you were an alcoholic or had alcohol use disorder, I should say. We don't like that first word. It's very negative. But they never congratulate you for quitting alcohol. Which is so difficult.
I find more do than used to, but you're right. For the most part, you're right. Especially shitty people. I'm being honest. I feel like people that I feel like it's a kind of like a different kind of person. Like I feel like maybe friends I had in high school
Yeah.
would be like, oh, that's so dumb. And then nowadays, I feel like I run into more and more people as I get older that go, I kind of want to quit. That's pretty good. I'm going to try that or something like that. You know? I'm all or nothing, though. I had to quit.
Sorry.
You just yawn into the fucking... Am I boring you?
Well, maybe I need more caffeine.
Shit, we had a really crazy day. We went to a new favorite restaurant last night where we had a steaks on rocks where they put it on this scalding hot rock. It was delicious. And the only reason I even bring this up, I forgot what the place was called.
Coa del Mar.
Coa del Mar in Boise, Idaho. Incredible. We had these restaurants. I was a waiter 3 different places, but these restaurants these days, the waiter's the easiest job. The waiter takes your order. This girl took her order. I don't think she touched anything on her table. There's a man that brings the drinks. There's food runners. Those are the true heroes. There's people that bust tables, who I think is the same guys. The waitress is just a pretty face who's taking your order and gives you your check, right?
Or the waiter.
Or the waiter. And I'm assuming that they split tips and everything. That's what we used to do. You get part of the tips. This young man who was our we loved this guy.
He's your Instagram friend now. I think it's so cute.
I don't want to call him out his name or anything, but he basically, I saw a boy. He came over, brought us drinks. He was non-judgmental about the sparkling water.
Yeah, he was cool.
Above and beyond. Do you guys want limes? Do you want more limes? And he was just making jokes. And I was looking at him going, that's what I was like when I worked a job for $4 an hour. I was in it. When I worked at Arby's, no one was more excited than me to be at Arby's. You come in, I'm more energetic as I am on stage. I love that job. And this guy loved his job. And I feel like, not to be that older guy, but there's some of these Gen Xers that are just like, I hate you. Like, you can just, the customer service is gone and they look miserable to be there. This young boy, wasn't he great?
You meant like young millennial or Gen Z.
I don't know what the words are. Who gives a shit? What is it, Gen Z?
He was cool. I really liked him.
They used to be my favorite stripper. Gen Z. Come to the main stage. It's Gen Z.
Why you gotta be like that?
I don't even like strippers. He was so nice. And then I gave him a side tip. I like that because I was afraid he would have to share it with someone else.
Yeah, no one else deserved it.
He looked
worked
excited.
so hard.
Yeah.
He ran over to his buddies and told them. I saw him.
I almost felt like it was such a big tip.
So cute.
I felt like it might have been too much. He almost quit. I thought him think about quitting. But you know what I did today?
It's nice to see like a good attitude and hard work ethic though in a young kid.
It's real nice.
What'd you do today?
All right. Well, I told him I want to talk to his manager.
Yeah. Oh, did you write a review?
So he said the manager's busy, but if you wrote a review, and I did. I wrote a review. You did?
You wrote a review? Did you call him out by name?
I called him out by name.
Good job.
And I said, this would not have been a good experience without Lucas. He crushed it. And I feel like he's going to get like a gift card or something. But props to him. Made me really happy.
Great. We love you, Lucas.
Lucas was amazing. Yeah. Lucas, if you're listening, you're too young to listen to this content.
Yes.
He was like 16.
He was.
That was amazing.
So, sorry I yawned.
No, I think it'll make...
We had a late night.
We
had a late dinner.
Be interested in the podcast if people on it are yawning. Shit.
So apparently you don't need more caffeine. So how much caffeine do you think is safe? How about that? How many cups of coffee should you have in a day?
How many cups of coffee should a person have in a day?
Or tea or soda.
I don't know. I feel like it depends on, and of course, everything I say, I either learned from Andrew Huberman or Tim Ferriss. But Andrew Huberman would say if you're caffeine adapted, it's going to be much different. If a person drinks 2 large Starbucks, if my mom did that, she doesn't drink caffeine, she's going to be out in the street in her nightgown. Nobody wants that. But I think that how much caffeine? I'm going to say 2 venti Starbucks, which I would guess has about 600 milligrams of caffeine.
And 5 billion milligrams of sugar.
Do you know the answer? No, venti. Starbucks black.
Yeah, I said sugar. Oh, just
0 sugar.
Oh.
This is
I was thinking all their iced bullshit
drinks.
drinks.
We're talking about. This is just black coffee.
I want to see the average calorie count in like a venti anything, like a
but back to caffeine. Do you think that is an accurate?
You're supposed to. Well, I don't know. How. So how many shots are in there? 4?
Well, a venti. I believe this is correct. A venti Starbucks drip has more caffeine than a 4-shot Americano. 4-shot Americano probably has what, 250?
About 50 to 60 milligrams in a shot.
So about 240, a little less for shots. I believe a large Starbucks has about 290 to 300.
Well, you'd be fine.
How many a day?
400 milligrams.
Well, sometimes I have 2 that's 600.
Well, then you would not be fine.
Sometimes I have a large coffee with 2 shots in it.
But that's Sounds crazy to say it because if you do the math, that's like 6+ cups of coffee, depending on how weak or strong your coffee is. That's a lot.
You know what I
And I try to tell most people 2 cups of coffee because I feel like the brews are stronger, the espresso's stronger. They're not having like really watered down coffee. Most people, when you go to like a coffee place, are getting espresso shots.
Yep.
So, yeah, but I mean, you can get into trouble. Like, it can cause severe irregular heartbeats, and your heart can beat so fast that you kind of like short circuit. You have like a SA and AV node, essentially. There's little things where it's like bloop, bloop, bloop. And then with the caffeine, it like goes around, it bypasses some of the nodes, and you just have a heart attack. You can die, even though you're young, and you have no problems.
What about the counter argument that it's so good, though? Do you know what you just said before? One of my pet peeves, you go, do the math. Whenever somebody tells you to do the math, I'm always like, you fucking do the math. Whenever somebody goes, do the math. What did I
say that was so bad about do the math?
Go do the math. And I was
for
like,
what?
why?
For calculating how many milligrams are in a venti Americano?
I just feel like whenever somebody says do the math. How would I know? I think they already did the math.
I didn't do the math.
Hey, do the math. If I was a math teacher, I'd be like, come on, guys, do the math. That's what we're doing today. Do the math. What was your least favorite subject in school?
Science.
Mine was math. No, least. My favorite was math.
I hated science.
Really? Mm-hmm. Isn't there doctor stuff? Don't you need to know doctor stuff?
Well, no. Like
I don't want my doctor like, oh, fuck this job, and then...
Earth science.
Stupid.
I thought like lava and magma and the core of the earth was cool.
Yeah.
But then when it got into like the weather, it was cool to a certain degree, but when they brought in the chemical elements, I should say, I really hated it.
I just
wasn't a big fan of chemistry. I hated chemistry.
Why do we have to
physics?
Why do we have to learn? Why do you think we have to learn anything that we don't use? Why do we have to learn physics if
corporal
we're not
punishment?
Yeah,
because the people before us did it.
Isn't that weird though? That maybe to figure out what you're good at, but I think we go too far with that stuff.
You mean with like your specific like college major, or what do you mean? Just in school?
I mean like the those courses you have to take that everybody has to take. Like everyone had to take organic chemistry or whatever, and then you're going to be a doctor taking earth science. When's that going to come up? Weather? I got an app. Tells me the weather. Well,
here's what I think is very good about school and early education being so diverse. You don't know probably what you want to do when you're older, and it exposes you to a lot of things.
I'll give you that.
I would argue, I think
grade.
It's actually, I think older than that.
Because they may be in college, though. Isn't there an old enough?
6th grade?
No, I mean like in college I'm taking earth science. You just said
I'll give you that until 6th grade.
6th grade. Then we got to choose.
Why?
9th. We accept 9th?
No.
You think college I need to be taking earth science if I'm a math major?
I think college is when you should be able to choose.
All right, we'll decide college.
Unless you know how there's high schools that have like trade schools built in.
Yes.
You know the track you want to go to. If you're absolutely confident in what you want to do, go for it.
Yeah.
But so that's what residency, or not residency, but med school is for 3rd and 4th year.
You're checking it all out?
Every month you're required to do different rotations. Tons of them to give you exposure. For a while, I thought I wanted to be a surgeon. For a while, I wanted to go into plastics. I loved ear, nose, and throat. I loved pediatrics for a little bit. I loved fertility medicine, I think, is really cool. And then finally, I was like, well, fuck, I want to do everything. So family medicine it shall be. But
I had a similar thing. It was like, should I do comedy, work in fast food, manual labor? So it was like a similar thing. Should I just do chores and live at home?
But had I not been exposed to all of those, I wouldn't know the ones I hated to check off. And I wouldn't know the ones that I liked to check on and then do an elective to see if I really liked it again.
That makes perfect sense to me. All that stuff.
I think a lot of school stuff is kind of like, you're not really interested. But when you're little, you need that exposure. But when you're older in college, I think in college, of course you need to choose your path at that point.
Yeah. Because
you're old enough to decide.
I remember I was a math major and they made me take anthropology.
Well, I do think humanities are a little interesting. Once you're in college, unless their job is to like weed out people who really don't know what they're wanting to do and make them think that they want to change their major, I don't know the purpose of like a required set of humanities courses.
Do you know this one time?
What?
When I was in high school, my math teacher, who I liked, this is all true. I go, I think he's sleeping with one of the students. I go, I think so. Guess what?
It was you?
No. I saw him later. They were married. I was right.
Ew.
But I don't think it was that. Can I say something? Do the math.
Shut up, Jamie. Yeah, bad.
She did the math teacher.
The math teacher should have been terminated if there was any type of dating.
Yeah, there was. I had a hunch that something was going on.
That's awful.
She just wasn't very smart, and she was getting the highest grades.
Well,
yeah. How old are you in high school though? Can you be 18?
I was 17 when I graduated.
Okay, so this is close, but that's not okay. He was young. He was definitely young, but still illegal. Where's Chris Hansen? But then when they get married and they're actually happily married, they're married for a long time. Do you go? I don't know. He knows probability.
Well, I don't know. Here's the other thing. I at least enjoy telling people the story of how we met.
That's right.
Do they honestly tell the story of how they met? Probably not.
Great question.
He's probably like,
yeah. You tell it, honey. Well, I went into his office and I said, I'll
don't
do
like
anything
this
for an
D.
A.
Well, I do, but not the D plus.
What can I do for extra credit?
Ooh.
So we just went to Denver, and by the way, I feel like that will be the end of episode 1, and we'll probably go into episode 2 if Matt is listening.
26 minutes?
I know.
That's a pretty fast wrap up.
So we went to we're in Denver this weekend. Can I tell you a couple of things about Denver? Then I'd love to hear your medical opinion and or your just opinion.
My medical opinion of a city?
Well, yeah, because I have a medical question kind of. So when I was going to go to Denver, they called me up and they said, the club goes, they go, hey, you should bring oxygen. And now, Erika, I'm not the most famous comedian in the world. I'm not like that successful, but I feel like the club should provide oxygen for me to have to. Like, don't you guys? I feel like it would be harder work to just remove the oxygen to make it harder on me. And then, of course, they're talking about
the cans.
It's Mile High. It's the altitude and the cans. So
I've never seen one, but right? Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, you go to Denver. It's a mile in the sky. So, I think a question. So we got.
No.
I had massive altitude sickness. It reminds me of the time Tyrus gave me a shoulder ride.
Oh.
Tyrus from Godfall.
Har, har, har.
I had... What? That's the most offensive thing that's ever happened. Turn off the cameras. That's worse than booing.
What?
When it's someone you love that makes that noise.
Then don't love me.
Well, sorry, I just had to check something. So, I feel like if I lived in Denver, I'm sure you know there's like... Well, you may not because it's very niche, but there's MMA fighters, the UFC, that's called like Team Altitude, and they all train in Denver. And when there's a thing in Denver, they just crush everybody. Some fighters come to Denver a month ahead of time. Can you imagine your job is to fight and you got to move? Think about the real life ramifications. You have a family and kids and you go, I'm going to go fight. It's in a month. I'm going to go live in Denver. You can stay in these altitude tents that are not quite as good, they say. Those athletes in Denver, they're crushing everybody. And they also do better when they travel elsewhere because they're so whatever. I don't know if it's called altitude adapted. But
what do you think would be better? If a team from Denver flew somewhere else of lower altitude and they just had better lung capacity so they could like outrun their opponents, or if that team flew into Denver and got effed with altitude sickness.
That team.
But they'd have to be there for a couple of days. It doesn't usually happen like immediate, but sports teams usually get in like the day before, right? So I don't know if they'd be there long enough to get sick.
I'd
postpone a game. I'd be like, ooh, our hardest team? Yep. Oh, I'd make it rain. I'd be like, rain delay. Yes, I would conjure rain.
With MMA, with UFC, you can't come in the day of because a lot of these guys come from different countries.
Weigh-ins and stuff?
Yeah, you have weigh-ins. You have fight week. So a lot of times they'll do press. So
yeah, they'd get wrecked.
They always get wrecked. But that's why they do the altitude chambers and stuff. You sleep in the thing, but it's not the same.
You sleep in an altitude chamber?
I don't know. It's some kind of fake. It's like you live in Denver, but you're in Boise. But every time you go to sleep,
Denver, I loved. But the altitude freaking destroyed me.
Yeah.
I felt so sick. And
it was harder on me because I was on top.
You got sick?
Most of the time. That's slightly higher. It's a little bit... I did get sick. I had 2 shows.
Ew.
Do you know there's a weird thing where when you have comedy shows, if you're sick and you have to like go through life, it sucks. But when you have shows to do and everyone's going to be looking at you, I have like a panic. I had like a sold out show and 2 hours before I was a disaster. This was a headache.
Yeah, shaky.
Yeah.
Like wobbly feeling in your legs. Like it felt like my legs were going to give out. And like kind of like that generalized malaise. Like you have the flu almost.
Malaise. I know what you mean.
Oh, that little sick, icky feeling in your tummy,
it's a great
Jamie.
word.
Do you want me to say that?
No, malaise.
No, but when you feel like you have the flu, you have body aches, you have like maybe a low grade temperature, like fever, low grade fever. It's just kind of sweaty, clammy.
Sucked.
You feel spacey too. That's probably what was the hardest part for performing is you have to be sharp, but if you're just kind of like off your game because your mental capacity is not where it should be.
I felt like I was good once I got there. I drank a giant coffee, felt like everything was fine. But yeah, that sucked. If I was from Denver, I would just fly to different cities and just race people. You know,
I just think, well, yeah. But what bothered me is like I prepared so much this trip compared to the last time we were there.
Prepared? What'd you do?
Like last time we went on a walk and it was almost flat, right?
Yeah.
And we were like super short of breath, not like just a little bit. And I was like, what the heck? I didn't think I was that out of shape. So this time I was like, okay, I'm going to stay really well hydrated.
Yeah.
I'm not going to drink a lot of caffeine or a lot of alcohol.
Right.
Because alcohol hits you harder and caffeine.
That's right. You did really good with that. You only had espresso martinis a couple times.
They were delicious. I had to put up with your show somehow.
Caffeine and alcohol.
So, again, when you have to stay awake for your...
Yeah, but it still hit us.
So that both of those are diuretics, so they dehydrate you more. So I was like, I got this. And I tried to not go on long walks. Like, yes, we went to the zoo, but like we didn't we didn't walk a lot that day. But I was like, I got this. And then the day in the airport, I was like, toast. Like I genuinely was hanging on to you because I thought I was going to fall over. I wasn't hanging on to you to be like, oh. Like I thought I was going to eat shit in the airport.
Yeah. Comedy Works is my favorite club in the country. We went to the Denver Zoo.
Yep.
And it was really fun. A zoo's isn't the zoo nice?
I love zoos.
I get that they're trapped in there and they could be on the plains of Africa, but it's cool to look at them. Do you know what I wish?
I would like to argue, though.
What?
It raises awareness substantially for people who would never see the animals.
I had no idea they were elephants.
Or when you watch, but when you watch television, it's kind of far removed. You don't really have like that emotional tie. They had scanned QR codes all over, like donate to the animals. Who knows how much actually goes? But I feel like zoos do have a pretty good way of giving back to the environment and giving back to animals.
Do you know I was about to donate to the elephant and I was not sure in what currency to do it? I had no peanuts. I go, is he going to get this money? How much of this money do they hand the elephant? Do you know what I mean? I just go, how do I know?
One of the signs said how much like hay one of the animals consumed. One of the camels, I think. I can't remember actually what sign it was. How much they consumed and how much it cost for each pound of food that they would give. And it said, so you can donate and directly feed this animal.
You're not going to believe this, but I dated a girl that was in her profile.
That's terribly rude.
Yeah, I go, I can't afford to date her. You're saying it raises awareness. And then
I understand captivity is negatively looked upon. However, a lot of the enclosures were very well done. They were large. They had space to roam. They didn't look abused or malnourished. And honestly, the monkeys, for example, looked quite happy.
The monkeys looked really happy. Do you know something funny? I was watching a circus once, and there was circuses, they're not good for animals, right?
No.
And
that's something I have a hard time with.
There was this seal. And they were like making him do all this stuff. This is a true story. And I was sitting in the crowd. I was like, oh my God. I was like in Fairbanks, Alaska. And I think one of the kids in front of me said to their mom, they go, man, I don't think, are the animals happy? And she says, not joking, she goes, is he happy? That seal's clapping and playing with that ball. I go, yeah. Because they're stabbing it when it's not clapping.
I was like going to say, because that's the only way it gets fed otherwise.
She goes, oh, he's clapping. Of course he's having a good time. I go, this is not a smart woman. But I just think, I get what you're saying about...
the bright lights, the loud noises. I think zoos really do help with conservation and with animal resources and increasing awareness to help with funding. So I don't have a problem with... I like a zoo. I love a good zoo.
I love a zoo. This might be controversial, but I get... that if we give the animals more room to walk around, they get exercise, they're happy. My problem is as a spectator who's paid very close to $70 had I not gotten tickets free from the radio, it's harder for me to see the animals because they have so much room to move around. I know it wouldn't be as nice to the animal, but is it possible to get a zoo where they can just pivot? Everyone's pivoting.
You know what one I like?
Phone booth. Why don't they switch out animals? Why isn't it like
what?
Why isn't it like required military service where they go, hey, we're bringing this elephant in the zoo. You gotta do 2 months, and then they let him free. They go, you gotta pay some dues.
Well, a lot of animals, I would say, that end up in zoos are either born already in captivity, so they don't know the difference.
Right.
Or they're injured and they're rescued, and they take so long with rehabilitation. If they went out into the wild, they wouldn't know how to survive, so they have to stay in captivity.
I like zoos like that. I went to a zoo where it was all rehabilitated animals. There was like an alcoholic monkey.
Oh, stop
there was a camel with a cocaine problem. But for real, the whole the whole zoo was rehabilitated. Every animal couldn't survive in the wild, and I liked that too. You know, there was like.
So my point was that's why you can't change out animals from the wild to captivity.
Why?
Because the wild animals would panic into like this small glass enclosure, not understand, and then as soon as they get used to being hand-delivered food and having no predators, what do you think would happen after a few months? I don't know how long it would take for them to adapt to their new surrounding where they'd forget a lot of their life skills otherwise. So you'd be messing with nature big time.
You ever heard of a little term called brainstorming? I didn't say I had it all thought out. I thought we were throwing ideas.
Well, it was a bad one that you had.
What's the guy's name? It was so funny. George Wallace had a joke about protesters coming to the zoo, like, let the animals free. And the animals are like, hey, settle down. I'm getting 3 square meals a day. No one's chasing me.
If it's a well-run zoo, I think it's like, I wouldn't mind being a zoo animal.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're dressed a certain way, I feel like people really are.
Some of the enclosures were like fun. Like some of them had like a big splash pad area.
Yeah, I'm sure that doesn't get old for your whole life.
To climb up and down.
Yeah.
But if you think about it too, then they don't ever have to be hunted. So they have a stress-free life.
That's true.
In essence.
But don't you think it's a little bit of excitement to wake up every day?
And wonder when you're going to get killed?
Yeah, but there's so much. I guess it's pros and cons. You're right. If it's a well-run zoo, and I don't know much about zoos. I don't know anything, but it felt like the Denver Zoo was a well-run zoo. It felt like it was a well-run zoo.
It was clean. They were accommodating, and the animals really did interact well. Like, they didn't seem skittish, but they also weren't so up in front of your face that it looked like we were being intrusive to their privacy.
Yeah.
Like, it was a good distance. Because you do worry about that, too. Like, the annoying people who don't realize you could be scaring an animal. That always pisses me off.
I don't like little kids.
They're punching on the glass.
Banging on the glass, and the parents don't tell them. Mm-hmm. I don't like that.
Nope.
Can you imagine you're in there, you're already your life, you're imprisoned, and then you got some fucking kid banging on the glass? I would want to rip, right?
Yeah.
No wonder when a kid falls in, the monkey's like, now's my chance. Right? Some of those are poorly run zoos. There's a video going around, there was like a hippopotamus that tried to just climb out of the enclosure and some guy was putting him back in. These zoos are not in the United States of America. We do pretty good. Do you know? I think we know what we're doing. There's some bad zoos out there.
Yeah.
If I could own an exotic animal.
Oh.
Did everyone used to want a monkey?
I didn't.
You did not?
No.
Do you remember? Are you too young to remember this?
Curious George.
No, this is bad. You might be too young to
Sock monkeys?
So no, there was a real monkey, and it was one of those stories where this woman,
Jane Goodall?
Oh no. This was not a professional monkey hanger around her. This was just some lady. So she decides, I'm gonna have a chimpanzee in my backyard, and this chimpanzee loves me. Right? So one day it's his birthday.
Yeah.
Do you know the story?
No.
And she bakes him a cake. And she goes outside and she walks to the cage and she says, happy birthday. And she opens the cage door and he rips her face off. The cake completely intact. And because you can't trust animals, they're not meant to be at your house.
That's sad.
It was very sad. And then she was on Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, she survived it?
She survived.
Ugh.
Monkey was fine too. And I think he chipped a nail. The woman was on Oprah. And they said, she goes, Oprah, I remember Oprah goes, I know you love this monkey, but are you mad at him? Like, you love this monkey, but do you blame him? Do you blame him for what happened? And I actually will never forget her response. She goes, She said she didn't blame the monkey. She said she forgave him.
Yeah.
Which I think that's the right thing to do.
That's scary, though.
Super scary.
I would own a koala.
Those are dangerous.
They're cute.
I think they have really... Do you know about them?
They're slow.
I don't know if they are.
What do you mean?
Have you looked into this?
No. I've just seen them in the zoo.
I think you've seen them in the cartoons. I think you want a cartoon koala.
The zoo, the San Diego Zoo, they were just sitting in the trees. And they were like snuggled.
Yeah.
And they didn't even move.
A lot of bears will rest after murdering.
No, koalas aren't going to murder you.
I think they might.
With what?
Their sharp
Cuteness?
talons.
No.
I swear I think the koalas might. Are you looking it up?
Yes.
Because I think they might. My friend Monty is from Australia, and he told me that koala bears had human fingerprints. So a lot of times you want to get away with a murder, bring a koala. Do you know that's true?
Yeah.
That at the
Yes, because koalas are my
crime
favorite
scenes?
animal. Our koala is dangerous. They are not typically dangerous. Only if cornered or threatened, they might become aggressive, like most animals.
like most of us.
Sharp teeth and claws can cause significant injury to humans or other animals if they are threatened.
All right, so you can have a koala, but just
They
do
can
not
bite hard.
corner it.
While koalas can hurt you, they don't pose a threat to human life. I just like the word marsupial.
What's another marsupial?
Kangaroo?
Oh yeah, I don't like a kangaroo.
A wombat.
I went to a guy's house.
Isn't marsupial a pouch?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly didn't think that until you said it, but yes, it is.
Wombat.
I went to a guy's house with Rob Schneider. This guy owned 6 kangaroos.
How is that like?
A big piece of land. He had a bunch of kangaroos. He had a baby deer walking around the house.
How do you accrue a kangaroo, though?
He said they just you buy them. Buy yourself a kangaroo. They're tough looking.
I got
Muscular.
it. Wombat.
What's that?
Koala. Wombat.
What is a wombat?
Sugar glider.
Do you know I've always wanted a sugar glider?
Kangaroo.
Can we slow down a minute? Do you know about sugar
Possum.
gliders? Erika?
What?
Are you familiar with a sugar glider?
I've seen them before.
Do you know that you keep a sugar glider in a pouch around your neck and he connects to one human being and then he will jump in the air and fly to that person and love them?
Bandicoot. So honestly, this list of marsupials, all I knew was kangaroo, koala, and wombat.
Right.
There's like 50 on here. I've heard, and possum is the only one I should have gotten. I've heard of none of these.
Yeah. Well, you did pretty good. But I've always wanted a sugar glider for the aforementioned reasons.
Oh, koalas are so cute. So is that your answer? A sugar glider?
Yeah, I would
Maybe
have
we
it.
should
But you
buy a
can
sugar
actually
glider.
buy a sugar glider in certain states.
You
I'll bet
can?
Boise you can't.
Why?
I'm guessing. Alaska you can't. I wanted to get one for my daughter, and they said no sugar gliders for you in Alaska. While you're doing that,
How far can they fly?
it's just like they're gliding, so they can like jump
really?
on a thing.
The sugar gliding?
You just said how far can they fly?
Well,
So I was answering.
a layman's term. I think the sugar glider would be offended. They'd be like, "Yes, I'm flying right
I think
now."
like 6 to 8 feet. That's a guess.
Idaho, it's legal.
Let's get a sugar
wanna
glider.
get one?
Have you ever seen one? They're the greatest. I would love a sugar glider.
That's so funny. I just
They're not cheap.
Legal. Oh, almost. Look at this.
How much?
Green, they're illegal. There's almost.
Alaska's illegal, right?
Yeah,
I
Alaska,
tried.
California, Hawaii, Pennsylvania are illegal. Just those 4.
Do you know who's happy
Permit
that sugar
required
gliders are
in-
illegal in Alaska? Fucking sugar gliders.
Yeah. Permits required in New Jersey, Georgia, New Mexico. The rest of the states, totally legal to
Can you
own one.
imagine you get pulled over with a sugar glider? They go, hey, where's your permit? Who knew?
They've been bred in the United States for the past 15 years. Do they make good pets? They've become very popular pets. They have a much longer lifespan than similarly sized pets
right.
like gerbils or hamsters. How long do you think they live if they're well taken care of?
I thought they I know gerbils and hamsters are very short,
They're very intelligent.
which
They
is
do
what I like
tricks.
about gerbils
They
and
come
hamsters.
when they're
for children.
cold.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That someone connects to them. One person connects. A sugar glider forms a bond with one
A
of the people.
bonded
in the
sugar
household.
glider will not try to escape from a family member, even when in new environments.
Yeah, and usually it's just one person that they bond to.
They don't require bathing because they meticulously clean themselves. Holy shit, Jamie! Let's get a sugar glider.
We should. We should compete for its affection and see who he bonds to. No, that's a real thing. They
That
bond to one
seems like a
person.
negative thing, like
No.
mean.
What? To just give him extra love?
Oh, look at you. You have to buy one here. New York State allows it, but not New York City.
Okay, that makes sense. I'll get a sugar glider.
What do you do with a sugar glider?
It's just fun. You know what, though? Let me tell you something. You know what I like about getting a gerbil or a hamster for a kid?
Ew.
Do you know what I like about it? The short lifespan.
10 to 15 years for the sugar glider.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying
I'd never finished my thought.
Or a hamster, that's nice. You only have to commit to 2 years. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's not very nice.
No, but I mean, if you have a child, I feel like it's not as big of a commitment.
I want to get a sugar glider.
Let's get one.
But I also would like a koala.
I feel like of the two, sugar glider would be the easiest to get someone to watch when you're out of town.
You said exotic animal, though. Does it rank as an exotic animal now that it's gaining mass popularity?
You need a permit, Erika. I believe that qualifies.
Only in a couple of states.
Yeah, but it's illegal in Alaska.
It's illegal
it's
in
exotic.
like 4 states and permit in 4.
Alaska sucks.
Koala bears are highly endangered, which is why they cannot be imported out of the country. Except for zoos, apparently.
Coming up on the next episode of Afraid to Ask, it would be a problem. It was a problem for
Why
this.
don't they do instant replay on all sports now for calls that are in question?
Holy shit, I don't know. Do they not?
I don't think all of them do. I think there's some sporting events that, even though they could, it's just whatever the referee calls it. And then you immediately see it on TV and you're like, what the hell? But it's like the whole game, like you could lose it because of a bad call and they have it right there and they just don't.
I find that to be fascinating.
Because we do it in like track meets, right? They always freeze it to see who wins
Sure.
at the very end. But I don't remember what sports, but there's sports where they have
Well,
it.
the UFC, it is only... I remember when they did it. It must have been 5 years ago. They said they can go to instant replay for a match-ending call. But that was just recently. Like, think about how long that technology has been around. I'm all about the instant replay. Do you think it's because they want a human element? Why do we even have an umpire in baseball?